So I want to talk about today about the Loomis method and why you might want to abandon it. Uh, as a quick disclaimer, I'm not um, suggesting you don't have to use it at all. I think the Loomis method is useful for, I guess, beginners who are struggling to visualize the different forms of the head and the basic structure of the planes. I think it does have its uses. Uh, but I think eventually you want to try to just kind of move away from it so that you can give yourself a chance to explore a little bit more with the possibilities. If you haven't heard of the Loomis method, it's basically a method for drawing the head at any angle from any perspective. So, in that sense, it's really quite useful, I suppose. And if you struggle to, uh, let me just get out a little bit. I don't know. I'm still sketching away at these guys, so I don't really know if probably going to change a lot of this anyway. Anyway, getting back to the topic. It's a method for just drawing any kind of head from any angle, right? And so in that sense, yes, it's definitely rather useful. It's definitely going to be useful for beginners because it just gives you a quick way to visualize the human head and how to draw it linearly. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube about the Loomis method, which is why I'm not going to do a tutorial on it because there's just plenty of other videos out there on the topic, and I don't really use the Loomis method anyway. But in this video, I kind of want to talk about like why you should probably go ahead and maybe abandon it after a while. Like you can learn about it, you can definitely use it to help you understand the basic structure of the headspace. But I think eventually, especially if you're drawing characters from imagination, you should probably go ahead and loosen up a little bit and perhaps abandon the Loomis method altogether. Because I've just, personally in my own experience, I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this, but I just find that the construction lines of the Loomis method are, well, it's always the same sort of template. And the construction lines are, I just find them to be rather distracting. And I find that they don't really, well, I just found that all of my characters, when I was using the Loomis method, they were just turning out, they would all just look the same. And I didn't really want that to happen, like I kind of, when I'm doing character designs, I want my characters to look kind of different. I want to draw a variety of different head types. And it's not that it's really a fault of the method, because it is meant to be used as a guide. But me personally, I was just so distracted by the construction lines that I just kind of couldn't help but limit myself within them. So I don't really draw heads using the Loomis method anymore. I draw a little bit more freeform when it comes to the human form. So with these characters that you're seeing on the screen right now, these are just, I basically just used a box. But it wasn't a perfect box, it was like a polygonal sort of box. So I'll give you an example of that. I'll use a different sheet of paper because I want to keep this drawing. This is like my character design sheet. So I'll keep this page clean. But this is my little practice sheet. You can see there's some like planes of the face in here. You can see these guys here in the corner. I'm redrawing these guys in this sketch, but I'm kind of changing things about them. I'm changing the character of the faces, changing the lighting scenario a little bit. Still quite like the the originals, though, to be honest. But yeah, but anyway, so I can still get pretty good results without the Loomis method. So I'm going to show you kind of the basic template that I work with. This guy might be a good example of that. But I work very tonally, right? Like if I just kind of sketch in, just here, for example, this is how I think. I'll just draw a basic head in a very basic position. So hopefully it's coming up on screen okay. And I just keep my lines really light. And I'm not using the ball that Loomis uses. I'm thinking of a very kind of abstract silhouette right now. I'm going to put in the cross section of the face, like so. Eyebrow line, nose line. And look, when it comes to the proportions of the face, they're only guidelines. So you want to vary them a little bit. You don't want to just, because, typically there's the hairline up here, and then you got to divide that into 3 equal spaces, according to the classical proportions, right? But when you're designing characters, I think it's good to actually kind of loosen up a little bit. So you can see just how sketchy that framework is. There's not a whole lot there. It's very rough looking. It's very ambiguous, vague. It's a sketch. Like it's not very good right now. So then what I would do is then I would kind of add the side planes of the head like that. Just really quickly sketch them in. So I'm not taking my time drawing the Loomis method. I'm not drawing the ball. I'm not drawing, the exact position of the jawline. I'm really just kind of going in here with straight lines. And I'm sketching in very basic lines just to sort of map the portrait out, I guess. So I end up with this very sketchy looking framework, which doesn't look much like a head at this point. Although if you use your imagination, maybe you can see one, right? But then what I do is I start loosening up even more, and I start putting the tones in straight away. So let's say if the light source is coming from this direction, right? This whole side of the face is going to be in shadow. This ear, going to be in shadow. The jaw is going to be in shadow. This will be in shadow. The neck, this side of the neck, will be in shadow. Underneath the chin as well. And anytime I'm sketching, I actually rub my finger just over the drawing. Or you can just use your eraser and just roll over it if you want to keep things clean. Eye socket. You see how I'm just really quickly mapping the tone in, and it's really just very quick sketch. I don't want to spend a lifetime finding the proportions of what I'm looking for. If I'm doing a more refined drawing like I did with this Roman soldier in the corner there, yeah, that's definitely gonna take me a lot longer, but again, these are more finished character designs, right? They all started from a basic framework. And we can imagine that the side plane of the nose here would be kind of casting a shadow. This is going to be casting a shadow. It's very quick hatching strokes. I'm not going to spend too long doing this, but let's have a look at what we got now. So it's kind of filling in, maybe. Again, this character I'm just drawing right off the bat. So I don't really have much of a plan for him. I don't know what his expression... He's got a very expressionless look on his face right now. And when it comes to the anatomy, again, I'm just keeping it rather basic. I'm not gonna confuse myself too much with every single face muscle. I'm actually thinking more about the planes and where the lights and the shadows are likely to be. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And so it's a very rough looking sketch. It doesn't look like much. But then what I do is I just kind of go in and just using tone, I just gradually darken everything. All right. And normally I would slow down a little bit. Like I wouldn't draw. I mean, you can draw this fast if it's just a conceptual piece. But again, this is more for just demonstration only. And then I start thinking about like some of those really dark areas of the shadows, maybe. Um, maybe his hair would be like a dark mass of something. Um, but yeah, this is kind of how I draw characters. I draw with a lot more expression now. I don't really use the Loomis method too much. If anything, I draw a lot of my inspiration from the Russian academics. Um, Not that my drawing right now looks as good as theirs, but I like to sort of look at some of their line work and how they visualize the human form. So this is kind of what we got, right? Like it's very unfinished, but we can see the impression of a face. And you can get some really good results from working this way. But you do have to familiarize yourself with the planes of the face, okay? I think a lot of artists, they make the mistake of drawing tonally, and they never learn how to draw a linear drawing. So think about, this eye that I drew here in the corner, right? That's a linear drawing because you can see the line work. You can see I'm outlining the planes of the eye. I don't know if I've got... There was another example I had somewhere, but I need to find it now. Let's have a look. It'd be in my sketches somewhere. Here we go. Right. Here's what I'm talking about. Here is a linear drawing, right, of the eye. You can see the line work. Is it 100% anatomically correct? No, it's just kind of an idea. But the planes do kind of represent an eye inside of an eye socket, and you can see the shape of the eyelids and every single plane, right? Now have a look at this drawing underneath, right here. It's the same thing, but I've drawn it tonally. So I'm not drawing every single line in. I'm actually just kind of shading the forms in, which is a bit easier to do because you can really search around a lot more. Drawing this, even though it doesn't look as realistic as this is harder to do because you actually have to draw those lines fairly precisely if you want it to look like the form that you're trying to depict. So this method that I'm showing you right now, tone is definitely an effective weapon, right? It's a very effective weapon to get good results, but you do need to familiarize yourself with the planes of the form. But you don't have to familiarize it, 100%. You can definitely get away with some things here and there. I'm just going to give him some hair around here. But I just find this way of drawing, just kind of diving straight in with some basic sharp angular lines, it does two things. I mean, first of all, it gives you a little bit of freedom to explore. Whereas with the Loomis method, I just kind of... The line work was just a little bit too... Well, the construction lines are a bit too distracting, I thought. Like, they were just a bit too set in stone for my liking. But maybe that's just my own failure as an artist. I'm not going to blame Loomis, but what I am saying though is if you're struggling to get good results from the Loomis method, maybe try loosening up a little bit more and try drawing a bit more tonally and just kind of see what happens. And just draw quick sketches, you know? You don't have to spend all day on it, you know? Like, this is just more for demonstration purposes, but anyway, there we go. So we've got an impression of a face with the shadows mapped in, and it's basic, but it was done reasonably quickly. I didn't take all day. And if you get good at this method, I mean, this is how I drew all of these guys. You see how you can get very, very good results from this if you just develop it a bit further. So my advice is, if you're sketching heads from imagination, use a bit more expression. Use a bit more expression. Maybe abandon some of the construction lines, because I think too many construction lines can actually serve to confuse rather than inform. And when you're searching for characters and you're drawing them from your head, it's like I said, you're searching for them, right? Like, you haven't found that character yet. You don't know what they look like. You don't know what the expression is going to be like. So it doesn't make sense to me that you're going to use so many construction lines to draw from imagination. You should actually loosen up and think a bit more tonally and scratch away a little more, searching for the character that you want. So I'm going to leave you with that, but try that, because I've gotten way better results drawing from imagination without the Loomis method. So give it a go.